Yes.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. We welcome you all for joining us today, this beautiful Sunday. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Today, Realize Nigeria brings to you a very important topic that affects everyone as individuals and as a group of people. We are so glad to be hosting and discussing this event today. And we hope that while we bring out our resource persons, you'll have a lot to learn and join the train of change to making the new narrative and experience for generations coming behind us. What is the
Yes.
topic of discussion today? We will be talking about human rights, gender equality, and female genital mutilations. These are very key topics and important line of discourse and in this present day and time. Why? Because we say train a child and you train a community. The women
Yeah.
folk hold a very important role in the society.
Mm.
Without them, we really cannot, the society would not be what it is. They
Yeah.
give life, they raise families, and they make sure that the home farm is successful so that the environment, the society can really function in its real um, intended shape and
Yeah.
form.
Mm. Mm.
So to discuss these issues today, we have with us well-grounded resource persons in the areas of human rights, like I said, female genital mutilation, and gender equality. Our first resource person in the house today is Mr. Ni Ojuolape. He's joining us from Ghana. And we also have with us today Ali Matu Dimonekene, who is joining us also from, I think, Sierra Leone. Am I right?
Based in London. Yes.
Okay, she's a Sierra Leonean based in London.
That's
And we also have Margaret Onah. These are great resource persons that will be talking from their advocacy, their experiences, and all that they have learned in the course of their lifetime. So to start, I want to take us through some very important information about the topic for today. We're going to be starting with the human rights content. What is human rights? Human rights is a globally acclaimed description of what the human life should be. It's a human right is inherent to one human being, regardless of your race. That is, it doesn't matter if for Africans, it doesn't matter if you are from Sierra Leone, if you are Ghana, if you are from Zambia, wherever you might be from, everybody has the right to life. It doesn't matter your sex, are you male, are you female, whatever your identity, you have to make sure that you have to fair share to life and to being who you want to be. Your nationality, your ethnicity, your belief, whatever you choose to be,
Mm.
whether you believe in God, maybe you're a traditionalist, either, whatever your faith that you claim and you stand by, your right to life as human being and basic amenities and whatever the government or the society provides should not be tampered with. And human rights also includes your freedom to life, your freedom of speech, freedom of expression. It doesn't have to be based on, oh, you didn't have certain level of education, therefore you can't talk, or you are not from a particular group of people that are known to be well grounded in some school of thought or whatever. You just have a right to be you. You have a right to be heard, and you have a right to express whatever you feel like sharing. Everyone is entitled to this right without discrimination. And discrimination is what actually makes human rights a topic for discussion. This has been going on for decades and hundreds of years. We have not achieved that level of full understanding and appreciation and even expression of what this human right is. That is why we are here today trying to educate you to talk about these things so that we all can, in our own individual space and time, be a part of the change of narration and opportunity. Don't deny another human being the right to be heard. Don't deny them the right to life. Don't deny them right to be who they want to be. Everybody have a right to life. And from there, we would also be talking about the bodies that have supported this cause and all of that. I don't want to take much of your time. We have, like I said earlier, we have well-grounded resource persons in the house. And so I'll be calling on our first resource person today in person of Mr. Niyi Ojo-Olakpe. Mr. Niyi Ojo-Olakpe is a great resource, like I said. He's been in this field for over a decade, and he has done a lot to making this cause a worthy cause. I want to quickly read through his profile. He is the son of a retired High Court judge of Nigeria. He has his degree in banking and finance and has 2 master's degrees. He also was one time a special assistant to the Honorable Minister of Health in Nigeria. Mr. Ojo-Olakpe is a member of the advocacy board of the Coalition of People Against Sexual and Gender-Based Violence and Harmful Practices. He was appointed UNFPA resident representative in Ghana in July 2017. He has mainstreamed youth issues, zero gender-based violence, and comprehensive sexual education. Mr. Niyi Ojo-Olakpe, you're welcome today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we have questions that we have put together for this event so that people can really get to understand where we are coming from, what you've learned over time, and what is currently being discussed or put out there for people to access and gain better understanding and change their orientation about this whole issue. So going straight to our questions. My first question to you today, Mr. Niyi. Please tell us about yourself and how you came about your interest in this area of advocacy.
Let me thank you particularly for hosting this event and for the organizers of today's event. Let me also say thank you for all the panelists for finding time to be part of this. It's like you have mentioned, my name is Niyi Ojo-Olakpe. I work right now as the country representative of the United Nations Population Fund in Ghana. But then, you see, how did I come into this space? Way back in Nigeria, where I used to work, where I lived and grew up in, where I used to work, I was working in HIV. I was working in the National Agency for the Control of AIDS. And it was from that point that my interest came up in the issues that has to do with gender, because women are disproportionately affected by the HIV virus and the HIV pandemic generally. And so from that point, I've gotten involved and very, very interested in issues of gender and anything that pertains to gender. So coming into UNFPA about 10 years ago, it has actually been a responsibility. But so the passion that I had before, with the responsibility that I got as a result of my working here, and then with the commitment that I've been able to, it has developed a commitment in me. And so over time, it has gone beyond just the job. It has evolved in the situation whereby it's something that I need to see happening, and then I'll go over and beyond in order to ensure that we advocate for the rights of women and to ensure that women also have a better lot in the scheme of things.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I was thrilled when I saw Mr. Niyi Ojo-Olakpe's picture in the flyer. I'm like, interesting. A man really fighting the cause of women. That's very laudable. And I would go to the next question. You being a male person fighting the female cause for better awareness and support and all of that thing, do you think that generally speaking, that people feel this issue is given unnecessary or too much attention? The issue of gender equality and human rights and all of that.
Let me just quickly respond. Thank you for mentioning the fact that I'm a male who is involved in women's issues. I inherited it from my late boss, who actually was a father to me, Professor Olatunji Oshotimeni. He was a Minister of Health in Nigeria, and I worked very, very closely with him. I recall there was a particular event in which he was speaking, and he was in the midst of 4 women, and we're talking about women's issues. The women then involved included the executive director of UNICEF, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. So they were talking about women's issues, and all of the women at that point decided to say, okay, that he is no longer a man, that he is they called him honorary woman. 2 years later, 2 years thereafter, on the International Women's Day, and then he had passed on the year before. So I came to Ghana. It was my first International Women's Day in Ghana, and so I happened to be at that table. I also had with me 5 women on the panel. I was the only man there, and the First Lady of Ghana was the one hosting that particular event. So I told that story that I can easily remember how my boss became an honorary woman. So the First Lady of Ghana on that day also christened me as an honorary woman. So I carry that time with me everywhere I go these days.
Awesome, and we appreciate you for that.
Thank you very much. Coming to your question, you see, the real issue is this, and I'm going to be as concise as possible. The real issue is that women have experienced a lot of disadvantages and discrimination culturally, and it's across the world. It's not just in Africa, though it is worse in Africa, but across the world. So over time, women have been regarded more or less, they have been regarded and treated as more or less second-class citizens, next only to men. And therefore, since we're realizing now that all human beings are born equal, and it's a human rights issue, a man and a woman, they have equal rights. And therefore, I don't want to go into the details right here, because there are so many issues that it has become a norm. It has become cultural, it has become custom. The entire world takes it like men are more. And because institutionally and systemically, we have systems in place that continues to exacerbate that particular norm. And therefore, in order for us to have a fighting chance of righting the wrongs, I'm saying you have to put in place, and note this, unequal chances, unequal opportunities in favor of the women, in order for us to be able to equate, in order for women to be able to come back to that point. Because right now, if we continue, I would say we are going back to equality, what we will just have is that there will be a continuation of the system in which we are in, or the situation in which we are in. But if we are going to have to come, and that's what we need to do, we have to make sure that we favor women disproportionately vis-a-vis the men, in order for us to, and that's why all our advocacy is to say, let's make sure that we have women being taken on much more than men. In a case whereby you want to interview people and appoint somebody to a position, we have gone past a situation whereby you are just going to say whoever gets it by way of merit. No, you have to give better opportunity to women in order for them to be able to get that. If they perform at the same level, the woman must get the job. That's our point at this point.
Thank you. Well, I really, really appreciate that narration. I really want to identify with all the things you said. Earlier this year, before the pandemic attacked the world, we were having the International Women's Day here, and some of our presenters also made it known that for us, even in the United States, that the present gap between the male and the female, for it to be bridged, we need a time of 100 years. So I agree with that school of thought that says there has to be an unequal preference for the women, so that they can really catch up and be able to take that stance of equality in the real sense, if we want to come to that realization. Thank you for that explanation once again. So that will take us to the third question. Looking at the cultural issues in Africa, how have you been able to address this potential threats towards achieving sustainable gender equality and human rights protection from your activities in Ghana for other African countries to take a clue from?
Okay, let me, because I know there are also other speakers that want to speak, I want to try as much as well to be brief also. The real issue is this, is that our job in UNFPA is basically looking after women. We have what we call the 3 transformational goals. First is to bring to zero every incidence of preventable maternal deaths. Second, the second zero that we want to achieve is to achieve zero unmet needs for family planning. And the third has to do with to achieve zero sexual and gender-based violence. And if you look through, it is young people and particularly women that are involved. So it is the female folks that is actually the issue. And so my job is to look after women and to ensure that we work with women to make their lives better, either physically, medically, or even politically and economically. So that's what we do. So in Ghana, our organization UNFPA, we have been empowering particularly adolescent girls, especially in the coastal areas and across the country. And with the support of the regional coordinating councils which we have in Ghana, and mainly with funding from partners, including the Canadian government, we have been trying to do our best in addressing cultural barriers, which we think is very, very important. And because you can't do this, you can't change the norms of people overnight. So we have been dialoguing with traditional leaders, faith-based leaders, we call them community or gatekeepers. We've been engaging with them about issues of gender equality, training health workers and peer educators in order for them to administer the appropriate and scientifically tested information on sexual and reproductive health. We have also been engaging with the media, journalists, and very, very importantly, most important partners are government, because if government can put the necessary policies in place, we'll be able to achieve behavior change communication. Now, I will not go without telling you in particular that in all that we have been doing, we have gotten a lot of support across the world, across the board. There is nobody that you talk to that will not say, oh yes, women are important. Now, since we have that level of support, we are moving into a situation whereby we need to do stuff on the ground. So we have all the laws, we have all the policy changes that all the policy documents that needs to make it happen. Now we are moving into a situation whereby we are actually carrying it out ourselves. And for us in our organization, I can tell you for free that 3 years ago in our country office, we have a gender equity ratio of 66% men to 34% women. But we have taken the bulls by the horns. Through innovative ways and what have you, we have now flipped it. Right now, we have 55% women and 45% men in our office. So that is exhibiting, that is doing exactly what we need to do.
The real way should be.
We're actually following the example of the Secretary General of the United Nations. The senior guys in the United Nations across the board, like you're talking about the Under Secretary Generals and Assistant Secretary Generals, that's the most senior set of people in the United Nations. I can tell you that today, the UN Secretary General are deliberately taking advantage of that policy of bringing women on board. Now you have them as 50-50%. As a matter of fact, I can tell you this figure. It is 90 men, 90 women who are at that level, and that is achieving gender equality. And you wouldn't have been able to do that if you did not, so to say, discriminate against the men vis-a-vis that of the women in order to achieve that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ney. So I want to touch down real quick with Margaret and Ali Matu to share their own experience on this same question. Ali Matu, you want to go?
Yes, well, thank you so much. What a brilliant start to the program. And I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody and for inviting me back again to this platform. Yes, I do support what Nia is saying. I think the drive for equality, gender parity, and ending sexual and gender-based violence globally, it's a drive. It's a drive where everybody has a part to play. We in Africa, or the African continent, have a greater sort of role in achieving this, because we have to, by 2030, end gender-based violence and increase education for girls, or access to education and sexual reproductive health rights. So to your question, where are we in terms of this change? In terms of advocacy, I think we've come a long way since the Beijing conference, since the year of the African child. If you go back in Soweto, when young people got together and were calling out for ending of apartheid, a lot has happened since then. And I always look onto what example Africa has set for the world to follow. However, what we see challenges in, and obviously with all the issues that we have faced, not just the pandemic, which is the most recent, and we've had conflicts, we've had issues in Africa, and these crises are putting a pressure on the rights of women and girls. And whether it be in war-torn countries, whether it be in famine crisis, whether it be in countries where we have seen epidemics, such as the Ebola, and now we're seeing the coronavirus, that is having a major crisis on women's rights. And how do we address that? It's through advocacy. It's through raising awareness in the community. It's through talking around policies and strategies. It's engaging with government, traditional leaders, survivors of victims of gender-based violence themselves. So it's a massive task that we all have to play. And this is just the start of it. This is where we begin. At these kind of platforms is where women are given the opportunities for us to engage with others, for us to have a more sort of subtle conversation on a global scale, and bringing everybody along and leave no one behind.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Alimatu. Margaret, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the privilege to be here.
Thank you.
We're having problem with connecting with the internet, but thank God it's stabilized now.
Awesome.
Yeah, this work is a great work that everybody from every point, male, female, government, communities, everybody must be on his or her toes to be able to achieve this great work that is before us. It doesn't matter where we have started, we still have so much to do. Advocacy everywhere, the women speaking, the men speaking, the children talking as well. In all areas, we must all come as one voice to dialogue together, to empower each other, to learn the way to go forward, to be able to achieve this equality that we are talking about. And I believe that this is a starting point. Despite all the crises we've had at different stages, if we all agree as one voice from different points, I know that we'll be able to achieve this task that is before us. And gender equality is a process. We can't achieve it in one day. It's a process. So I see that as everyone is coming together to bring all that we have learned, we'll be able to achieve our gender equality.
Thank you, Margaret.
Take over. No, we have to come together to ensure that we are able to achieve gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Very well said for all of our resource person. One thing I really want to chip in at this point is the fact that while there is a lot of awareness and sensitization in this area of talk about human equality and gender equality and empowering the women gender, it is very important for us women at the grassroots level to also wake up to this call. Nobody is going to come and put you in a position when you are not saying, I am here and available. We have to wake up to the responsibility. Wake up and smell the coffee. It is no longer business as usual where people are going to come to you and say, Madam, take, this is what we have for you. You have to put yourself out there. Let them know what your needs are, what your interest is. And then from there, you can actually be a part of the change. They can consider you. They can know that, okay, we saw these women trying to do something beneficial, not just for ourselves, but for other women alike, so that the change can actually be adopted as quick as possible and also reach more areas of our continent and the society at large. So women, this is a call, a wake-up call. Wake up and be the change you want to see. No matter how small, a little drop of water, they say, makes a mighty ocean. And it is together we stand. Together we stand. Don't see it as, what is this woman doing out there on the street and making noise and ranting? You have to stand with your fellow women to make this clarion call heard. And, you know, from there, the sky is will be our starting point. Look at Mr. Niyi. I'm so impressed with all of what he said and he's done. This is a very, very laudable action. And really, women, I want us to wake up and not to challenge the men. We are together going to make the world a better place. Two good heads are better than one.
Let me just quickly put this in, because it's a major challenge, and I like the angle you had to come in from, because women need to support women. Because the challenge we have is that if you're looking at, I know someone was still saying it, I'm not sure which of these presidential election where you had a woman that was a presidential candidate in Nigeria, and also we have some of these cases also in Africa, where even during you had women who were there during the voting and every other thing. I discovered that it was only one vote that went to that woman. So it shows that there's need for women to really come and support. We men, we are ready to support, and that's why I really respect Mr. Niyi Ojolape, for what the passion he has when it comes to women issues. I'm also passionate about it. For Realize Africa, we are passionate, but you can encourage us if you also come out, so that it doesn't look as if the people we are fighting for, they are also not even ready to come out. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy with your narrative and also what Alimatu has said and Margaret, that we need to really come out and see this as a joint effort. We need to work together, irrespective of whether you're a male or a female, so that we'll be able to achieve gender equality and help ourselves, so that nobody is left behind when it comes to matters of development and adding value to various communities.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So it's very important.
That has been my advocacy as well. Like, women stand for women. You see a fellow woman trying to launch a business, having an idea, whatever you have to support, give it to them. Even if it's just a check-in, like, how are you doing? How is it going? You have a resource or you have a connection that can help them get better at what they're doing. Be that support. You just have to be a pillar of support. They say together we stand. No man is an island. We all need one another to get there. And it is going to be a sad tale if the men are coming out to help us and we ourselves are like redundant, not helping ourselves, or not even getting ready to face the challenge or take on the responsibilities that we need to take. Thank you very much. So I'll go back to Mr. Niyi for his question. So I have this question. The UNFPA just released the report on gender equality and social norms. How can we start putting women and men on equal footing, looking at the outcome of this report? I know you already talked about creating an unequal chances and platform for the women, but is there any other policy that has been put in place or strategic plan to achieve this goal?
Yes, thank you very much. In fact, the answer to this question is very closely linked to the issues that you were just talking about now. You see, we start to look at it from the side of the women. There is the major problem that we have, which is the fact that the issue of gender equality or the gender inequality is rooted in social norms. And in order for us to change social norms, in order for us to achieve gender equality, we need to change social norms, because there are certain social norms that encourages all those inequality. And it starts from assigning domestic chores to women and girls, and then it comes also to the issue of eliminating harmful practices like FGM. If you look at it, really, it is actually women who perpetrate this. Harmful traditional practices occur across the entire globe. They are not unique to a particular culture or religion. And you see, some of them, they actually come from a good heart. It is in order maybe to help them. They feel that, the girl, we don't want her to We don't want her to be promiscuous. We want to look after her in life. We want her to be a good girl and what have you. That is where all of this starts from. So you see, when they want to perform the infibulation, that is FGM, so to say, by the time they go, it is a woman who will be there. They will put somebody, maybe the parents don't want to be there because of the pain that they themselves also will be going through psychologically, but they will put a trusted female to be with them. And so you see, I read of a story of a lady, I mean, of a girl who was who went through FGM at the age of 8. And she told the story that it is what our grandmother called one of the 3 feminine sorrows that a woman must go through. That is 3. That it talks about the day of circumcision, the wedding night, the wedding night is the night in which you are going to be escaping from that day, the pains of the day of circumcision. And itself, it's also a sorrow because it's going to be very painful. Then the birth of a baby. So the 3, those are what the women call it. And the lady was saying that her 2 sisters, herself, and their mother went to visit their family back home, and they thought they were actually going for an holiday. But a bit later, they told them that they were going to be infibulated. They didn't even know what the implication was. And the day before the operation was to take place, another girl that went through that rite actually died because of the operation. So they became scared, and they did not want to suffer the same fate. So somebody had to hold her down. It was a woman that will hold her mouth. Another woman will hold, 2 women will hold their chest, and the other 2 women at least will also hold their legs. So that is women doing it. And they believe that they are doing it for the good of the girl that is involved. So that is a social norm. If somebody believes that, okay, they are doing something good for the girl, so we need to do a lot of work in order to get women to understand that some of these practices, which they call traditional practices, it is cultural, it is just what you have to do, it is for your own good, for them to understand that it is not good. So the report that we just released shows that, the main point from it, the main takeaway from it is that we have to find every means to engage with the gatekeepers, to the community gatekeepers. So it has to be bottoms up. We cannot stay somewhere in the city or in the urban area and legislate about what needs to be done, because in most places the laws are there anyway, but somehow they still find a way to do it. So in order for us to uphold the rights of girls and women to be able to exercise their agency, including even the issues of contraception and what have you, we need to work with the traditional leaders, we need to work with their parents, we need to also work with the men also in the society and every opinion leader. And these days, we are lucky that we are getting to a point whereby there are people in the society who are champions by themselves. They are not leaders, they are not anybody, but then they are championing this cause because they've started to understand. So that is actually the thrust of the report, and the conclusions thereof.
Yeah, if I can quickly chip in something I recently discovered last night. There's this new film, Diamonds in the Sky. It's a film by some Nollywood actors, and I really appreciate their education that they were trying to pass across. In this movie, it talked about some of these challenges that are synonymous to women, such as cancers and different kinds of health conditions. And I was so glad to see in this movie that men are no longer being the typical conventional men that we used to know. I see a new wake up where men are really like giving support. It's a different thing when you have a challenge that it's peculiar to you as a woman and you are just fighting it alone all by yourself. So I'm very happy and excited to know that the men in our lives and in the society generally are waking up to the awareness that they need to learn the helping hand, because like they used to say, and I think it's true, that behind every successful man, there is a woman. So for these men, they are really understanding now that these women are better than just baby producing machines or wives just to cook. And I'm really happy that the narrative is gradually changing. So without much ado, I want to quickly switch over to Mary Onah. so that she can also come in from the angle at which we're presently talking about. So who is Mary Onah? Mary Onah is a medical laboratory scientist by profession with over 15 years of experience. She supports grassroots capacity building for the eradication of the female genital cutting, early marriage, and access to HIV and reproductive health, HIV testing and reproductive health services. She is also a master trainer and facilitator of the SDGs. That's SDG Social Development Goals of the National Youth Service Corps from 2007 till date. She is a strong voice in Nigeria on issues of inclusions of sex workers on the HIV program and the national government. Mary Onah, you're welcome today. Your mic is muted. Yeah.
Hey, Margaret Onah.
Margaret Onah, I'm sorry about that. Margaret Onah. So we have certain questions for you. I don't know if you want to quickly say something about the last question about policies and reforms at this point before we start with you from your activities.
Okay, yeah. You know, the policies are there, but how many people actually know that they are there? A lot of NGOs have gone to the communities to talk about FGM and other gender violence, you know, happening. But people don't know about this law because they are not being implemented. So one of the things we are actually spearheading now is that let everybody know the laws, like the VAP law, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of Nigeria, for the female genital mutilation.
Okay.
We go to communities, we give them we make copies and give to everybody as we are sensitizing them. Let everybody know this law is there, because if the people don't know the law, you can't go and arrest them. So you allow them to know the law, educate them, concern the law, so that by the time anybody is caught cutting their girls, cutting their women, beating their women, and they are arrested, they will know that there is a law. But if you're not sensitizing them on the law and you just go, they'll tell you they don't know what you're talking about. So there must be great awareness around policies as well. Nigeria has so many policies. Are they being implemented? That's the problem we have. So we must create awareness around the law as well as that saying the other things.
Okay. Thank you about that, Mary. So I want to just like take you back to a proper beginning as if we're just starting this introduction. So can you tell me or this great audience today how you got into this advocacy?
In 2009, that was when we started.
Okay.
In my family or in my community where I am from, in Yala, in Cross River State,
okay,
FGM is a very common thing for every household. My parents, we have 7 girls and 2 males. And they circumcised almost everybody. Why they didn't circumcise 3 others was because at the time they circumcised the 4th girl, she bled so much and was taken to the hospital. And she almost died. But thanks be to God, she didn't die. So by the time that my sister grew up, she read a story of a Syrian lady who was not circumcised, who ran to London. At this time, I was already working with female sex workers. And she said, we need to integrate FGM into our work because FGM was so serious, or is still so serious in Cross River State. Cross River State has 18 local government areas. In 16 of those local governments, they are cutting their girls. And it's a big ceremony for the Cross Riverian. Before their daughters will get married, if you're not circumcised as a child, on the night of your bride price payments, that girl is going to be circumcised. And that was how we started going to the communities to advocate to women that no, we cannot continue cutting our girls. The way we went, they were trying to tell us that FGM is their culture, is their tradition. Yes, it's your tradition, a tradition that is painful, that is hurtful, that leads to death. Are we going to continue that way? We went back to re-strategize. And we now saw that, you know, because the clitoris is talking, the clitoris is in the vagina. And nobody wants to talk about the vagina openly. So people are just doing FGM and not really knowing the implication on their daughters and on their women. We decided that we need to find out what the function of the clitoris is. That by the time the people have the understanding of what the clitoris is, they will be able to reason to see whether they still want to do it or not.
Education.
And we saw all the things involved. In childbearing, the clitoris is necessary. In sex acts, the clitoris is necessary. But the people did not know that the clitoris has functions. They just felt that their myths that they have, that if the head of the baby touches the clitoris when the woman is trying to deliver, the baby will die. A woman that has a clitoris that she's going to be promiscuous, she'll be going about with so many men. Those are the kind of things they have. That a woman that has a clitoris is not going to be faithful to her husband. We saw those are all myths that needs to be corrected. So we now re-strategize. But good enough me is here. We had some experiences or capacity building with the UNFPA. And by the time they came to begin to train us, to let us see that FGM is a human rights issue, that we should go back to be re-emphasizing the human rights aspects of it to the communities, we will be able to get people to support us. So we went back in a new way. Now we are talking about FGM as a human rights issue, not your culture, your tradition, where girls and women should be subjected to pains. We discovered that if many people have the knowledge, they'll be able to speak. So we now began to ensure that we have supporters. We go to communities to talk to them. After a while, some old women in the communities began to resist that we want to take their culture away. What do? One of those days, we got to the community while we're having meetings with them. A lady stood up and said, the government is saying that FGM has all these implications, that they are experiencing those things that they are saying. It's painful, there's high bleeding, people are dying because the hospitals are not even close by. Why don't they redefine their culture? Wow, redefine your culture? An old woman was talking. We were so impressed by that word, redefine. And I said to her, Mama, how do we redefine your culture? He said, we will do all our ceremony, but we won't do the cutting anymore. I said, good, we are ready for that. What does your ceremony involve? Can you draft a curriculum for us? Let us know what it entails. We are ready. As far as we're not going to cut, but if you're going to do what the ceremony is about. And they said in that ceremony, the people had to give a lot of prizes. The girls have to stay in the fattening room for like 14 days, where they'll rub them oil, give them good food to eat, and they're not going to do any hard work. And by the 14th day, the communities will come out, whereby they will be celebrated. We said, fine, we are ready for that. So we stayed with them. We went back and came back and said we want to do that. But at this time, the traditional leader has agreed with us that he wants to go with us. So he started going to communities to bring all the traditional leaders of about 24 communities for us to talk to them. Okay. And by the time, yeah.
Okay. So I'm glad that you have history. You have an history of how all this led to your passion and your drive. So I want to ask you, what lessons can other countries learn from your fight against FGM to date?
Like I keep telling everybody in the work, we NGOs or we advocates, we should stop going to the communities to impose our knowledge on them. What do I mean by that? We shouldn't go there and say we have come with new knowledge to give to them. We should listen to them as well.
Very important.
Yes, listen to them. They have knowledge. Let's learn from them what they're saying. Let's don't just go and insist this thing is bad, this your tradition is not okay, so we don't want to do it. No, let's don't use that attitude. Let's have the attitude of, I want to learn from you, you to learn from me. Tell me what you know, I tell you what I know.
That's very laudable. That's a good way to educate somebody, because if you come and make them feel what they don't know nothing or they don't have anything to give, it creates a natural tuner from whatever you are bringing to them. I think that approach is very vital in any teaching and learning experience, a give and take, a win-win affair. That's very good. So do you think at this moment, so far in your journey of advocacy, do you think you're winning the war, or other NGOs alike are winning the war against FGM in Nigeria and maybe other partners in other countries in Africa?
Yes, we are, because the knowledge and awareness around FGM is so wide now. A lot of people have known that there are certain things about FGM that ought not to be, and they are beginning to have a rethink around it. And one thing that was lacking again in the awareness of FGM is not letting people to know that sexual act is a fundamental human right of both males and females. Until the man, because the women say they are circumcising their women because of the men, isn't it? If the man understands the function of the clitoris in childbirth and in sexual acts, the man is going to stand up against the women and tell them to stop circumcising their women and their daughters. But this has to be openly discussed. We have to come together. Let the men and the women know that sexual act is a fundamental right. Just as I have the instinct of hunger, I'm hungry, I want to eat food. Sex is for both males and females. It's not only for the males. It shouldn't be that the man is doing the woman a favor, giving her sex. No. It's for both of them.
Okay.
God has made it to be that way. Until the men begin to understand that, then you see they begin to like, oh, really? So what is the take home on this that you're talking about? How is it a woman's right? Does the woman have a right to say, I need sex? Is it only the man that needs to ask the woman, come, let's have sex? Until that is communicated, we are not going to we won't be able to win the fight. They must have that understanding to be able to pass the message across. And if we are able to communicate that, a lot of countries will begin to sit up to say, okay, let us stop this thing.
Thank you, Margaret. Just to also add to what you were saying, I think a lot has to do with family values as well and reorientation. Something I learned so far in the recent maybe 3-4 years of my relocation to the state is that the difference between the Western world and Africa is the freedom of expression. the encouragement to be you, especially for the female folks. I remember growing up, there are some things that I just don't have a right to say, even if it is wrong. There are some things that you can't challenge or question. But here you see little kids that are telling you, you want me to do this. Why do you want me to do this? I don't think I should do it. You know, the education to be you, to be not to be rude, but to be you, to have a good reason why you're doing something. It's very important. You can't just be living on, I say you do it, so you do it. Don't question my authority. Let us lead by practical example. I remember our last event we had with Kachi, the survivor of the Sosoliso aircraft. She said something that was very important. She said a parent doesn't just punish her for punishing's sake. When she's getting punished or having to go through any reprimanding act, they let her know what she has done wrong. It's true that Africa, we have culture, but in carrying on our culture, we have to make it educative. And I'm very happy about your perspective to this thing. You said you go to these people believing they have something to teach you. You know, when you go to people in a let's meet halfway manner, it helps to fight every battle of that are unnecessary to be fought. You know, they don't see you as coming to antagonize what they believe in. They don't see you as coming to tell them they are doing rubbish. But you are coming to say, okay, this is what you're doing. Oh, why are you doing it? Okay, what if we tried? You know, you're coming in a suggestive and not a lauding manner. That is very important. Africans and parents these days, we really have to help our families to understand the place of communication, effective communication, understanding, giving reasons to why things are done. And by the time, you know, I just believe in understanding why we are doing what. What is your why? Understanding the why behind every action is very important. Like you said, you ask them, why do you do this thing? Is it possible you let go this act and they said, okay, we can let it go, and then we still carry on the tradition? People at times just want to have fun. People at times just want to have something to gather for, without really causing a pain or hurt to another person. So it's high time we really go beyond, this is how my great grandfather did it, so I have to do it, and my children have to do it after me. Let us learn effective education, like understand what you're doing, and let the person you're trying to pass it on to, let them understand what you're also trying to do. Thank you very much for that illustrations and explanations you gave, Margaret. We're very grateful. I'm going to switch over quickly to our next resource person, that is Alimatu Dimone Kene. Alimatu is an award-winning advocate of women and girls' rights. Although born in Sierra Leone, she had her studies early in the UK, and she spent most of her time with the United Nations as a volunteer and other notable charities. She is the founder of Project ACE initiative. She is also a trainer and a mentor to many young girls and women. Alimatu is an active speaker and expert on the subject of female genital mutilation and honor-based violence. She's made impact and engaged women via seminars and writing. Alimatu, you are very welcome again.
Thank you once again for having me, Toyin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'll go to the questions for you. You know, the topic of female genital mutilation is a big topic, and I'm happy with the thread so far, starting with Mr. Neyi, Margaret, and now over to you. How did you get into this advocacy, and what has the story been so far?
Well, I've been in this work for quite a long time, over 25 years, and obviously through a personal experience of mine, but also understanding the pain that women were going through, and there was no reason for it. And each time I will question myself, why are we doing this? And like you just said with Margaret, a lot of people say, well, it's our tradition, it's our culture, it's what makes you a woman. And like Nia said, there are 3 stages in life a woman has to go through: FGM, marriage, and this is one of them. And I'm like, well, no, it shouldn't be. This is unnecessary. It's an unnecessary pain and harm that is caused to women. However, my work became real prominent in 2012 when I was asked, because I worked in the policy sector for quite a long time. I worked in local government for a very long time. And as you said, I was a UN volunteer at the time. And I was asked by a great friend, sadly, who's passed away now, to say, you know so much about policy. Here you are a survivor of this practice. You know so much about it. Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you engaging with your community and bringing other women along? And I paused for a while. I thought about it and I said, well, it's a very difficult subject. And I don't know if people would understand and why my voice was needed. But as the years went on, I then realized that actually I have the power to make the change, because I knew a lot of the time, coming from Sierra Leone, the language, the tone, the environment when you speak about FGM has always been about aggression and threats and violence and all of that. And I thought, well, somebody's got to stand up to these people that carry out this practice. You know, as much as we respect them, we've also got to let them know that actually you're doing more harm than good. And so for me, that was when my work began. So 2012 was when it actually became official. And I worked around a strong policy and laws in the UK that affected Africa, you know, and I contributed to a lot, to giving my own experiences as a survivor in terms of the impact that was, in terms of the help available to women. So I made it sort of a passion now. I made it sort of a cause that I needed to go into my local community and educate people. Because like Margaret said, often NGOs, charities, particularly international organizations, when they talk about FGM, for me, it was very distant. I didn't connect with it at all. And it was sometimes being romanticized. It was sometimes being made as something that was really nice, you know, but it wasn't. There were women that were dying. I've had relatives that have died from FGM. And I thought this was unfair. So, but it carried on. But in 2016, when I sort of said, well, this has got to go to another higher level. You know, well, 2015, I was invited in Zambia for the End Child Marriage. And while I was there, here was an international conference looking at ending child marriage, but yet there was no discussion around FGM. And I thought, well, this is not going to get us anywhere. FGM is the precursor for child marriage. And you cannot talk about child marriage and not talk about FGM. You have to talk about FGM, because in so many African communities and countries, you know, FGM sits right in the middle of that. It's the essence of everything that governs why girls are married off very early. So I was in Zambia and I insisted to meet with the AU person in charge of the event. And I said, well, you have to include FGM. And I was insistent that they had to include it. So I'm happy to say they did. And what that steered was getting over 45 young people from across Africa. And we had this 3-day event where we were talking, you know, meeting young girls, talking about their experience, girls from Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone, expressing how they felt. And they said, this was not something we've ever done. And I said, well, I've come all the way from London, you know, to attend this conference in Africa. And I'm sort of convinced that we had a voice, that let's get together and let's grow this movement. And in a way, I was very proud that I insisted that the event considered that FGM had to be part of the agenda. So sometimes you have to push for change, you know. So for me, that was the sort of the beginning of my push that I have now. I never used to be that pushful, but I thought this was needed. But yes, we could do so much more.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your strength, for your passion and your drive. I really hope that we can change the narrative and the experience of women going forward. So to the next question, what lessons can people learn? Maybe you have resources or any information that you want to share at this time, even for people that really have not gone through this thing. I was talking to you right before we started the live broadcast that a lot of friends have been asking me questions since I started the awareness about this event, that what is FGM? Like you said, for people that have experienced it or that are in the environment where these things are carried out, they see it as a devil they have to deal with. And for some people, they're totally blind to it. What are the strategies that you think we can use to educate? Because, like you said, what affects you as a woman affects me, whether I like it or not. And we can be a voice. We can lend our support one way or the other, be it at the policy making level or even as whatever influence we have to making sure that people try to put a stop to this. What can you say are the ways that people can learn to be an advocate for stopping FGM?
Well, there are many ways. And I always say to people who ask that very question, there's nothing too little. You can write a note on Facebook. You can be posting our images in terms of empowering women and young girls that you think might be at risk of FGM. You could start up a blog and just sharing information on the facts. Like Margaret said, so many people don't know what FGM is. In a minute, I will show what FGM is when we go into the myths around FGM, because I think knowing what FGM is sits well with the myths, because there are lots of myths that people tend to associate FGM with. But there's so many things we can do. I recently started a new company after Project ACE, but this is called A Girl at a Time, because I was sick and tired. I'm originally from Sierra Leone, but I've lived in the UK most of my adult life. And very often my family back home would say, well, you are in London, what can you do? We're in Sierra Leone, we're in Africa. You can't do anything. And I said, well, I can, because in the onset of technology and advancement of mobile technology at that, we can do so many things. So I started what is called A Girl at a Time, because there are so many problems in Africa. And if we want to empower women for the future, we have to begin working with a girl at a time. Too often, when we talk about women and girls issue, we try and put everybody into one space. And what A Girl at a Time does, we focus on online advocacy, interaction, where we sort of push for policy, we push for change, we start campaigns, using a space that's very safe for young people. We understand that we cannot reach a lot of older people, but we use the space nonetheless. And we have seen such a drive. Just this year alone, we have had over 3,000 young people access our website alone. And usually it's to get information. What is FGM? What's happening now? And obviously, for those that know me, I'm very active on Twitter. I'm very active on Facebook. My personal page on Facebook has become an information sharing platform. So whenever I see accurate information, I will share it on my page. So there are so many things, anyone that with a passion, with an interest in trying to end FGM, in trying to educate your own community, there are lots of things we can do. And you can grow your village through the online space. We can engage with anybody around the world, as long as you have a laptop, a tablet, or a mobile phone. We can do so much more. I mean, we're transmitting now on a technology that's very new. But I tell you, I have relatives in Egypt who are watching us as we speak. So these are important tools that we can use, but also try and educate yourself. If you're an advocate and you want to talk about FGM, it's important for you to know what this is. It's important for you to know what the myths are, what the risks are to women and girls who might be at risk of undergoing FGM. What is FGM? Some people say FGM, some people say circumcision. There's a big difference. In fact, there is no circumcision in FGM because we don't peel. Circumcision means peeling. And women's genitalia, not the vagina, it's the genitalia that is cut off. The vagina is part of the genitalia. So when we speak to people, we try and educate them on the terminology. In some communities, they don't like you saying or calling it FGM. They'd rather you call it cutting, or they'd rather you call it FGC, which is for cutting, or they would like you to say sooner. So it's about understanding. It's important for advocates, particularly advocates from Africa, because again, too often when we talk about FGM, it's always linked to culture and tradition. FGM is not a culture, it's not a tradition of Africa. If you go back and look at the African history, in fact, women from Africa, slave women from Africa, were subjected to FGM because the white man who enslaved the black people used FGM to punish women and in sort of retaliating towards their men. So I always say to African people, if you really are a proud African, you should not be embracing FGM. FGM is not an African culture. You know, we should disregard FGM because it doesn't sit. And often you hear people say, well, FGM is part of my religion. Well, no, FGM is not in any of our religious texts, the Bible, the Torah, the Quran. In fact, in so many ways, FGM or harming of human body, which FGM is disregarded in the scriptures. In all the books that you're going to read, it's do no harm, the Bible tells you. And in Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon his name, when he got to Medina and asked for a woman that he has known about, where is this woman? And they said, well, she's out cutting some girls. He was shocked. He said, is she still cutting? Does she not know the importance of women's body? You know, so I'm using this in our modern language today. He criticized the woman for doing that and say, if you're going to cut a girl, leave some pleasure for her spouse or her future husband. So I think when we talk to our communities, we have to tell them what essentially FGM is and how complicated it is for women's health and their well-being. So we're not just looking at human rights when it comes to FGM. We're looking at the impact it has on women's health and well-being. We also have to look at the damage it does to women's understanding of their own body and how we can prevent it, because we know so many women or girls or women that were cut as girls end up having some complications with either fertility or have endless infections. So it's having a better understanding. So when we go into our community, whether it be community where English is not the first language spoken, or let's say Yoruba, Hausa, or Timini, the language I speak, when we go into our communities, we also have to find the understanding. So in my case, I always ask women, what do you call it in your community? So I'm from Sierra Leone. Predominantly, people will call it Bondo, but FGM is not Bondo in Sierra Leone. FGM is a practice that takes place in the Bondo society. In fact, we don't have a name for when a woman is cut. They often say circumcision, but you don't circumcise women, you circumcise men because you peel the foreskin, but you cannot circumcise the genitalia. You do not peel the skin of a woman's genitalia. So I think when we begin to speak from an understanding and educating and empowering women what essentially is FGM, the women themselves will say to you, oh my God, I thought this was something that was needed, that I had to go through it because my family, in fact, never told me. There was never a discussion. And now I know better. Definitely, I'm not going to do FGM.
Awesome, awesome. Let me quickly say to our participants online, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat room, and we will get to it right before the end of this session. Okay, so Alimatu, can you say that so far in Sierra Leone and other African countries where your advocacies have reached, would you say there have been more successes in the fight against FGM?
Oh, yes. Globally, there's massive success. In Africa, there's even greater success. In fact, when we look at the data, if we go back, let's say 10 years ago, the data will show some countries were right in their 90s, 100% of their women and girls were cut. So I'm from Sierra Leone, and I was cut when I was 16. But I have two daughters. My eldest is 28, and my youngest is 19. Now, those two girls have never been cut. I also have a granddaughter. She's a year-old, and she'll never be cut. So in my case, in my generation, we have ended FGM because they will never, ever experience FGM. So in a way, we have won. In some countries, we are now seeing laws in Nigeria. Obasanjo, Jonathan Goodluck passed a law banning FGM. We are seeing in the Gambia, there's been new laws. We're seeing in Egypt, in Liberia. So in 20 years ago, this was never an issue. People would think FGM was acceptable. Sadly, countries like Sierra Leone, where FGM, for whatever reason, the governments, because the people that carry out the practice of FGM are very powerful people, and government politicians revere these people. So there will never ever be a discussion on FGM publicly in Sierra Leone. However, I'm so happy this last year alone, because we have had a spate of rape, or what I would call an epidemic of rape culture and raping of young girls in Sierra Leone. Now, what that crisis, as sad as it is, what that crisis has done in Sierra Leone has ignited a new conversation with women. For the first time, I believe, in the history of Sierra Leone, women, and also in Nigeria, recently we had the rape of a girl at the Redeemed Church. And that again, we had the rape of a woman who called out a prominent man. People are speaking. Women are now calling for their voices to be heard and for change to happen around gender-based violence. So countries like Sierra Leone have introduced, for example, just a few weeks ago, have introduced a one-stop shop, a one-stop center where women can go, either if you're a victim of rape or sexual and gender-based violence. So they call it sexual gender-based violence because they don't want to include FGM in it. But we know FGM is part of sexual gender-based violence. So you can't talk of sexual gender-based violence and not talk about FGM and child marriage and all the other stuff that comes around harmful practice. So in a way, we're seeing those changes are happening. And so in the West as well. In fact, in the United Kingdom, 6 years ago, professionals were not trained. You would stop a police officer and he wouldn't know what FGM is. But in the last 6 years, every professional, now there's a law in the United Kingdom that if you are a police officer, a doctor, a teacher, a social worker, a nurse, a midwife, a health visitor, and you are working with women and girls affected by FGM, if you know of a girl who has had FGM under 18, you do not report that child for help or to the police, you are going to be faced with a challenge from your body. So they're a regulated body. So this is now encouraging professionals to take a lead in talking about FGM with women and girls and preventing FGM from happening. And also there is a law now in the United Kingdom that says if you are a parent and you have a child who is subjected to FGM, you are responsible for that child as the guardian and the parent of that child. The life of that child is in your hands. And if you subject that child to FGM, you would face the penalty of the law. So in America, it's the same. In France, it's the same. So many parts of the world, we are now seeing change. So for me, 20 years ago, I would have said, well, there wasn't much, but there's huge progress that's happening. And we're seeing a lot more being done. But I was going to show so people then understand what is this FGM that we're talking about today. If it's okay with you, can I now share my screen?
Yeah, that will take us to the fifth question I have for you for the myths and whatever pictorial representation you can show about this whole subject.
Should I proceed?
Yes, please.
So I have the audio, but
right beneath your screen, you should see a share screen. Can you see that?
Yes, so can you see that?
Yes.
So for some people are asking, so what is this FGM that Alima and the guests are speaking about? So FGM comprises of all procedures involving partial or total removal of the external female genitalia and other injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reason. Because too often we talk in Africa, for example, well, we're doing it because it's for medical reasons. There are no medical reasons and there are no benefits in FGM. In fact, FGM harms girls and women in many ways. And it involves the removing and damaging of health and normal female organs, female genital tissue. So when you look at the area, I'm going to show the slides in a minute, but when you look at the areas that are being cut, these are vital tissues, organs that are vital to women and interferes with the natural function of girl and women's bodies. So the next slide will show, so according to the World Health Organization, there are 4 types of FGM, because I think sometimes when we talk about FGM, we talk about it as a singular practice. In so many countries, in fact, if I use my country, for example, Sierra Leone, many women are cut more than one time. There's never an incident where you have a girl cut. They're usually cut more than once. In fact, if you die and your body is washed, which is usually washed by the women that carry out the practice, and if they see you haven't been cut properly, even in death, you'll be subjected to FGM. So we want to also highlight this because I think we downplay when we just say FGM. So there are 4 types. And the first type, which is very popular and common in the West Africa, or even in Africa in general, it's called clitoridectomy. And in simple term, what that means is the cutting of the clitoral hood. So this can usually be a partial or total removal of the clitoris, which is the small and sensitive side of the women organ. It's an erectile part of the female genitalia. And in a very rare cases, the prepuce or the top of it, the fold of the skin surrounding the clitoris will be cut off. In some communities in Africa, such as my community, they usually say because they don't want the girl to become a boy or a woman to become a man, because the clitoris, believe it or not, has the same characteristics as the penis. It sort of elongates. So they don't want that. So which is why they cut the top of that. And the type 2, again, another common one in West Africa, not so much in North, East, and South Africa, but it's very common in West Africa, is excision. This is, again, partial, not always the case, partial or total removal of the clitoris and the labia minora. So the lips, as you can see, if I use my cursor, you see where the green bits are, is usually cut. So they can either cut the top bits or they cut the bottom bits. So that is excision. Now then type 3, this is where more procedure is done to the women, or more operation is done to the organ. Now this type of FGM you're often to find in Somalia, in Egypt, in Eritrea, in Djibouti, in the Horn of Africa in particular. This is the type of FGM. It's called infibulation, right? So usually what they do is sometimes, not always, you see the picture we saw in type 1. So if I go back and see type 1, so they will cut the bits of the clitoris, they will cut the lips of the clitoris, and the body will be sewn together, as you can see in image 2 and 3. And a tiny hole is left for the woman to either urinate, or the girl child to either urinate or have their menstrual flow. It's very painful. And sometimes you might think they would use a needle. A lot of the women are not anesthetized, or they don't have a sterile environment where this operation takes place. It might be a home, it might be in a local backroom place, or with an older woman. Even in a hospital, women still stay with the scar and the trauma that comes with FGM. Then you have type 4. Type 4 is all the other types, because the WHO has many, many categories. And the ones that could not be categorized come under type 4. So you have countries like Uganda, Rwanda, some parts of Southern Africa, Botswana, will do what they call the pulling. They will do what we call the elongation, where the lips are stretched, so the lips are like our ears. They're stretched until it's pulled, where you see the body starts to hang out, or the holes in the skin, and almost, like when we cut our ears in Africa. These are very, very painful experiences for women and girls, which is why the United Nations in 2011 declared FGM a human rights violation, and one we all should take very serious. So when I talk about FGM, this is something that I take very serious. I want it to end today, not tomorrow, not yesterday. I want it to end today because it has a lasting impact on the health of women and girls worldwide. It's estimated that every 6 seconds, somewhere in the world, a girl is cut. There are 200 million women currently living with FGM. So imagine this is a self-inflicted practice that we can end ourselves, which renders women with so much pain and suffering that we see women die during childbirth. We see countries where girls, adolescents going through childbirth will die or have fistula, for example, because their bodies are not ready to have babies. And if they've been cut as well, their bodies might stretch and will rip and tear, and women will bleed to death. So it's not a practice that Africa should embrace. If anything, this is the time, 2020, 25 years since the Beijing conference, that called for human rights, women's rights, human rights, and every woman's right matter. You know, for 25 years, but FGM has been around since millennia. You know, so it's something we can end, and we know it can end because we have seen our girls. There's no difference between my daughters and the daughters to come. I think we can do so much more, and this is why platforms like this is very important for us to talk about these things.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that descriptive explanation of what the FGM types are. Right now, I'll go to question 7, and right after that, Ireti would be taking over for the questions. A lot of ladies have lost their relationships or future partners due to discoveries of FGM due to the discoveries of their FGM status by these partners. What advice do you have for such ladies or women and the men in their lives?
Well, this is why conversations with women around our girls, starting off, you see, in communities where FGM is practiced, there's already this construct of misogyny and patriarchal. It's what governs us. And FGM is used to control and police and women's bodies. So if we begin to teach our daughters, as a mother, I want my daughters as they grow older to value themselves, value who they are. And if we begin as a community, stop putting our moral compass beliefs on women and their bodies, because too often it is the woman who's promiscuous, but men are not. When you're a man who sleeps around, oh, he's a good man, he's a stallion, you know, he's the best out there. But when you have a woman who does the same, you know, a woman's name is tarnished and the woman is blamed and then she's ostracized, stigmatized. But if we begin to erase these norms in our community, that the Bible itself tells us all men are created equal. Yeah. Yes, it didn't say woman, but all men are created equal because we are created equal in the sight of God. And the body of God is made whole and perfect. So if we begin to teach our young daughters that no matter where they find themselves, that they are beautiful in every sense of the word. And if a man who really believes that they love my daughter, they will see her for who she is. And if at all they have been subjected to FGM, which is why when we have our workshops and we talk to women, I have been through workshops myself where for a very long time, I did not like my body. I felt that I had a scar that was so ugly, that was so bad, and I felt embarrassed, and I felt that something was definitely wrong with me. But the more I attended the workshop that talks about, well, you are living with the scar now, there's nothing you can do about it. Actually, you're more beautiful because you have survived something so terrible that you are going to live to tell the story, because many women die through having FGM. I survived. So because of those that have died and have gone before me, I have taken this opportunity to ensure that wherever I go, I show my true beauty and I show my true style and fashion, because love and character of a woman is not just between what's in her legs, you know? There is more to a woman than what's between her legs. And too often we place emphasis on women and ourselves on what is between our legs. But a woman is not just made up of that. We are educated. More African women have now got access to education. There are more women that are breadwinners in Africa. There are more women in informal roles in terms of business, in terms of innovation and creativity. So the world is moving along, which is why we shouldn't be using cultural beliefs that keep us back, that keep us behind. We have to enable the girl child, in their community to thrive and feel that they are part of a thriving and successful society. So we have to place emphasis on our governments, on our leaders, to begin to believe that the girl child has a place in her society. She's equally able, just as the boy child, to be better educated, to be better supported. Her health matters. She should not be used as a commodity, either be forced into a marriage because the family has no income. You know, we know a girl who goes to school and is educated is more likely to bring back wealth to her community, is more likely to pace having babies, so therefore will space out the growth of the population, because women tend to think ahead. You know, we tend to plan ahead for the future. We are better at saving and being more economically sound in terms of our access to finance. So there are lots of pluses now for girls, and we are seeing. You just have to look at Nigeria. You know, one of the richest women in the world comes from Nigeria. So it's just a matter of time. The dynamics of women globally are also changing. For the first time in the history of women, we have two women. One is a Nigerian and one is a Kenyan, who will be heading the World Trade Organization. So for me, that is progress in so many levels. Why we shouldn't be using harmful traditional practices to reduce women? Because what harmful practice says to a girl, you are no good just being a mother and a wife. But we see women today go into space. We see women creating technology that we have never seen before. You know, so many things are coming out of what women can do. You know, I don't like to use the narrative, what man can do, women can do better. No, what a man can do, a woman can do. We are born equal. We have the same talents. We have same 5 fingers on each hands, 2 eyes, 1 nose, 2 mouths. There's nothing different between I and a male. So we have a better place in our society. And I think this is where we must begin to encourage and empower women who find themselves with partners where they have left them. If a man leaves you because of FGM, please see me, because I'll hook you up with another man who will marry you.
That's so cool, Alima. Thank you so much. I like your narrative. Thank you. Ireti?
Thank you very
Over
much.
to you.
Okay. It's because I'm really the last point made by Alima too. It's something that is very important. There's a lot of let me use the word, because I've had a lot of stories like that people lose out in their relationship after revealing their FGM status, and you know, it's not something that should go bad. It should be something that we should celebrate, because already they are going through a lot of trauma, they are going through a lot of mental health issues, and now you are also coming in the aspect of a relationship. Emotions is another issue on its own. She's coming from another a battered past, and you're again also trying to play with her emotions. So it's high time we all support women no matter who you are. And also from Realize Africa, we want to say that all women, even if you have gone through FGM, you are beautiful, you are the best, and we love you. And Alima has given you that, Limato has given you that assurance that let him dump you. There's a better man ahead of you. So don't worry, even if you lose that relationship, there's a better relationship ahead. So thumbs up, and that's the great thing. Yeah, so I think we'll be going straight now to, let me get to Margaret because of our time, because we know we need to round up as soon as possible. So let me just quickly ask you this question, Margaret, because you're known, when it comes to survivors, we talk about people who are survivors. What do you do? What are some of the, so let me say, the advice that you give in case we meet survivors, people who have gone through FGM, and thank God Alimatu has even changed the narrative. We see them as stars. So those who have gone through it. So what advice do you think, from your own experience, can be given to people who have passed through that? And how can we support them from your own experience in Nigeria and in Cross River?
Yeah. Thank you so much. There was a time when I was doing a sensitization in a community. In that community, all the women have been circumcised before we got there, which means the whole of those generations, they have been circumcised.
Yeah.
And when I explained to them what that taking off the clitoris meant, how the women are not able to respond well to sex, their king just stood up and said, Margaret, that is what we have been experiencing. What is the way forward? How can we help our women?
Yeah.
And I said, women, this had made you to be, they don't have self-esteem anymore. Their husbands go out to go and look for other women. I said, no, it ought not to be that way. I say, you women, you are celebrated. You are the best of women. And I'm empowering you to be able to talk to you, to have a communication. I told the king, there must be a communication between you and your wife. You should be able to find out from her how she responds to you in the act of sex. How does she respond to you? Because that is where the woman feels she is nobody. She does not respond it, and she has this low esteem, and she's not happy with herself. No matter the amount of money the husband gives to her, she's feeling not, up to it. And I said, no, it ought not to be that way. That the man, there are other ways the man should be able to understand the language of her woman's body, to be able to find out another part that will make her to be sensitive. That's it. The husbands, the men should not look down on any woman that has been caught. That has nothing to do with it. If the man loves that woman, like the lady that my sister just talked about, that man is not meant for that lady. Let the man go to hell. There are better men there. All the man is to have time for the woman. Let there be a communication. There are other parts of the body that the man can touch that will arouse the lady, and she'll be able to reach. You have a sexual satisfaction with her husband. So men should stop playing around with women and thinking because they are caught, so they cannot marry them. Any man who doesn't want to marry you, that man is not meant for you. Let him go off you. And I'm talking to all my sisters everywhere globally. You are beautiful. You are too much. You are excellent. You are a pride to us. Cutting your clitoris does not make you less at all in any way. But we are saying that let our women not be caught anymore. Let our daughters not be caught anymore. Let them be intact, because it's for the good of the woman and the man as well. I always like to make the women feel there's nothing wrong with them. Yes, they have been tampered with, but they are still okay.
Wow. So okay, let me ask this question, because we'll also go to Mr. Niyojolape now. You are someone that is fearless, because I've known you for a long time, and because even the way you are talking, it shows that you're someone that Nigerian people will say you send at all, send anybody. You are ready to face, because you get to terrains that you people run away from, because I know you work with sex workers. You are still working with them. You work with people in communities whereby you have to go on a bike almost for like 2 hours inside the bush because of your passion. Why are you so fearless? Why is this courage coming from? Is it because of your background? Because sometimes people say that you're from the south, they are very, very strong. So is it like your background, or some people really gingered you to just be fearless? Because sometimes I know there are certain times you want to take up an action, you want to advocate against it, because I know you don't like people suffering, you like to speak out. So what makes you to be fearless? Because I know someone is watching, someone has this passion that I want to talk, but I'm afraid. I don't want them to do anything to me. I don't want them to shut me down. So what advice do you have for people like that? So can you share your own experience?
Yes. I'm a child of God, and I believe in the word of God. I believe that truth is truth anywhere in the world. Truth is truth in Nigeria, in Africa, in Europe, in Asia. The truth that is truth remains the truth. It cannot be changed the other way. And when you are telling the truth, God is going to back you. Yes. If you are telling the truth, God is going to back you. It does not matter where you are from. Since you know what you're saying is the truth that you're saying, God is going to back you. That is my backup. Not that I have anything that, I believe the word of God. I always have this scripture that says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he shall direct your paths. I pray a lot when I'm going to those communities. A lot of people, once they know we are coming to talk about FGM, they are ready. They want to resist. But you need to pray. You need to, be spiritual as well. You're not just going there empty. You have to, whether you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, as far as you're serving God, pray before you go to those places. And as you're going and God is going with you, everything is going to be fine. That's my backbone. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Well, that's the truth, because I think you rounded it up, and that's what we're saying, that the truth is truth everywhere, no matter the environment. So we'll still get back to you with the last talk, but let's go to Mr. Nii, then we'll still get back to you to round up, so that we'll be able to now have holistic interaction. So, Mr. Nii, we're right back to you. We thank you very much for your time, because I know we'll be able to keep you in between. Thank you for your patience. But it's very good that, and again, you've also said it, that you are in the midst of women. But thank God, I think we are two against three. So it's we are all together. We are fine, and I'm really excited that we have powerful and inspirational women with us. We want to learn from you the Ghana experience. Because I know during the lockdown, UNFPA Ghana was able to intervene in some areas in terms of the COVID-19 sexual and gender-based violence issues. What are some of the lessons that we can learn from the Ghana experience, especially during this period? Because I know even in Nigeria and some other parts of Africa, we had a lot of cases of sexual and gender-based violence. So what are some of the lessons that we can learn, and some of these stories, success stories, some of these involvement that we can learn from you? For us, those who are into the NGO sector, those who are into policy making, those who are in different countries or different sectors, they can learn from you. So let's hear from you the Ghana experience. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ireti. Let me thank particularly my sisters, those that have spoken. They've spoken very, very well. I've listened to a very, very awesome conversation this afternoon, this evening. The expose, so to say, what we heard from Alimatu and Mrs. Onah, they are very, very insightful, and I want to thank them very, very much for that discussion. Now, coming to the issue of COVID-19 and what we have been able to do in Ghana. What happened was, I always describe the situation of the emergency of COVID-19 because it was an emergency. And it was an emergency of humanitarian proportions. And when it happened, you see, I always describe it like a fire on somebody's roof. Immediately the fire occurs, what you want to do is to put out that fire. So when COVID-19 broke out, it was an health emergency. It came as an health emergency, and it had to be dealt with as an health emergency. So government and our government in Ghana, we must give them a lot of kudos for what they did, because immediately government moved into the arena, brought in $100 million, put it into the economy, started to take care of several things. The health sector response, put in place treatment centers, testing centers, isolation centers, mobilize the entire health sector in order to respond to the pandemic. And that's why we have been able to, in Ghana, we have been able to achieve a lot of successes with the response to the pandemic today. But you see, an epidemic, a pandemic of this proportion, which affects the entire world, will go beyond just the health issue. So there were health consequences, but beyond that also, there was also the socio-economic implications. There were socio-economic consequences for the entire country and for the people. And anytime such happens, women are always, they are the ones always bearing the brunt. They are the ones at the lower end of the ladder who will suffer the most. So when this happened, women were disproportionately affected as usual. Because, for example, you see, it is women who suffer sexual and gender-based violence. It is women who are at the lower rung of the economic ladder, and so they are the ones that will suffer the most. Even among health workers, because we have more women in the front lines as health workers, so they were the ones that were mostly affected. So for us in United Nations Population Fund, we quickly recognized this gap, that this gap was going to be there. That's the women response gap. So we decided to come into this response by doing what I call gendering the response as much as possible. So, and the first thing we did was to try as much as possible to reach out to the government agencies that were in charge of the issues that had to do with gender. And so we started working with them. And perhaps the first thing that we did in order to respond immediately was to block the issue, the possibility of sexual and gender-based violence and domestic violence. What were we going to do? So we quickly activated the domestic violence helpline in collaboration with DOPSU. In Ghana, we have, and that's what Nigeria should also adopt. We have a particular unit of the Ghana Police that is called DOPSU. That's the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit of the Ghana Police Service. When you get to a police post or police station, there is a unit there that deals with issues of domestic violence and abuse. And so we have that DOPSU. So we started working with DOPSU. We activated that domestic violence helpline, and we went out in a full blast, advertising, publicizing that helpline, so that if anybody is going to face anything like a domestic violence, they have somewhere to call. But much more importantly, it's not just the curative aspect of it or to prosecute those who commit the offenses. The idea really was so that it could serve as a deterrent to those who will want to commit domestic violence. And I think we were able to achieve a lot in doing that. Beyond that also, we did several things, but I will just tell you about a project that we just started, which was to provide succor to women who are at the receiving end of the problems that COVID-19 brought. These are the vulnerable women. And we have a particular set of vulnerable women in Ghana, which are called the Kayayes. The Kayayes are like the head porters. That is, when you go to the market, you have this set of people, they don't have a job. The job they do is to carry pans with which they help you to carry your stuff from where you have bought it to their car or to the road where you can get the transport. So they are there. They are usually they are migrants. They are migrants from the north. So they don't have shelter. They are hard pressed for food, and by virtue of that, they were vulnerable. They are vulnerable to sexual and gender-based violence. Men come to invade them and do rape and what have you. They are also susceptible as a result of that to teenage pregnancy or unwanted pregnancy, as you may want to call it, and also sexually transmitted infections and HIV and the likes, and even also other opportunistic infections, because one, they are poor and they are vulnerable in different, so they are at the lowest end. So we in UNFPA, we have been working with women, we have been working with Kayayes at different levels. So we call them Kayayes in Ghana. We have been calling them Kayayes, we have been working with Kayayes at different levels before, but in this particular case, given the effects of the pandemic, which makes the situation more dire, we decided we had a group of Kayayes where we work with different partners to have 500 Kayayes that we recorded. We brought them together. We actually did a biometric registration of these ones, and what we did was to make sure that they don't lack anything that is basic. What do we call anything that is basic so that they don't lack food? So we are on that project. It's a 6 months project in which we are giving them food. That is raw food which they are going to, because they also cluster together in groups. Then we give them what we call in UNFPA, what we call dignity kits. This is a kit, a pack of things that any human being needs, to the essential things that any human being needs to maintain their dignity. We are going to be looking at a washing soap, bathing soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, a towel, sanitary pads, basic things that they will need. So we're giving it to them, and we're using this to try as much as possible to reach out to them, and through that we're also giving them reproductive health education. We are enrolling them for health insurance, so that if they fall sick or if they need any health interventions, they'll be able to have it. So with all of that, we give them hygiene kits and essential supplies, so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to take them through the vulnerabilities of this period of and the effects of the pandemic, so that they can be better persons. And we're actually planning to introduce them so that they will be able to do some entrepreneurship activities. And that's one major one. But the second major thing that we're also putting in place, because it involves a process, that's what we call the Boame project. The project is such that when people call in the hotline, we refer DOFSU, that is the police, that is the domestic violence arm of the police, to take care of investigating and prosecuting the offenders. But you want to look at there's also a gap there, in the sense that apart from the offenders, there is the victim or the survivor who is in pain, who needs support and help. So right now we are bringing together professionals who will be providing their services pro bono to provide support and succor and comfort for those who are victims of the situation. We have quite a lot of programs that we are putting in place in order to respond to the issues of gender inequality, which has been made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Wow, that's great. To me, it's something that is holistic, and I believe it's a template that we can look at in other countries, and I believe other policymakers and stakeholders are looking at this, so that we can all collaborate, because Africa is one. We are together, irrespective of our country. We need to build one Africa, and that's what we believe in Realize Africa. So we are so happy to really hear from you in that aspect, and we will still get back to you to round off. We want to hear your last, that's your encouraging word, because because someone is watching, someone is interested. Because for me, I think we'll still like to have you again, especially in the types of working in development circle, because we have a lot of young people who are passionate about development work, but they want to know how to go about it. But in the meantime, we just want to hear from you when it comes to the aspect of advocacy. How can we step up as young people? How can young people be involved? International Youth Day is coming up, and he was talking about how youth can be engaged. So we'd like to hear from all our resource persons how young people can involve in terms of engagement. So I'm going to start with going to go to Alimotu to that's for our own encouraging word. And we want to say this, that we're able to get some materials, some e-copies as electronic materials via UNFPA Ghana and through Mr. Jualakpe. So please, in case you have not registered, there's a registration link on the screen, so that we can get you some materials. You can learn, you can develop your skills in terms of sexual and gender-based violence and other issues within the UNFPA world and the global world. So just make sure you register, and we want to appreciate, thank you, Mr. Jualakpe, for helping us with those materials, and UNFPA team in Ghana. Thank you so much. So let me go straight to Alimotu, and also I'm still going to bring in Toyin, Olatunji also on. I want to ask you, just to round up, what's your encouraging word? I mentioned that in the next few days we are going to have International Youth Day, and we are talking about youth engagement. And I don't know whether you followed Igbo. I think Igbo. I know how. Yeah. She posted a video today whereby I think someone was trying to, come up with some distractions. And I know some of these things will happen when it comes to FGM. A lot of people will say, why are you talking about FGM? Why are you not talking about male circumcision? So how can we undo distraction? That's your encouraging word for today. Like, what can we do to encourage distraction, to get over distractions when it comes to advocacy? Because I know all these things will come in. A lot of people will slide into your DM. I know you have experienced that. People will say all sorts of things in your comment box. How do we get over this and we still stay on top in terms of advocacy? So we'd like to hear from you on this.
Well, this is something I've had to deal with for many, many years. And I always say there are some distractions that you need to distract, and there are some that you just have to ignore. Now, if you're new to this work, you probably are energetic, you want to respond to every question around FGM. I say pick your battles, don't respond to everything. What I would advise that you respond to things that you have facts on. Because too often there are many people, believe it or not, who want to see FGM continue. In fact, I spend most of my day, if I'm on Twitter, most of my responses that I have to delete or the trolls that come on my Twitter feed are people that are saying, well, FGM is okay. FGM is our culture. FGM is my right. I am an African woman. I have the choice to choose FGM. For those people, I don't respond because, frankly, I don't see why I need to respond to someone like that, because it's either they have a problem and I'm not ready to solve that problem. So I go to what I can solve. So for those that say, well, why don't you talk about male circumcision? Well, there's nothing for me to talk about, because there is a big difference between male circumcision and female genital mutilation, which I think I've addressed when I showed the diagram. In fact, male circumcision, it's a skin that's removed, even though it's a problematic topic. And sadly, it's acceptable in the Bible, in the Quran, and in the Torah, but it's a problematic issue. However, it's not an organ that's cut off. In the case of women, it's an organ that's removed. Now, many people wouldn't know how to put that defense across because we don't have the facts. So I always say, go to the World Health Organization, read research materials, look at blogs where people have talked about these issues, empower yourself with knowledge. Knowledge is power. We have been able to come this far because we have defeated through the knowledge of information and accurate information and data. So if you're young in this work and you want to go into advocacy, you will be challenged, but it's what you do when you're challenged. Never walk away, because that's what they want you to do. They want to scare you away. How come you're talking about FGM on Facebook? This is our problem. This is white people, because you want the money for white people. This is the kind of conversation I'm having to deal with. Well, I say, well, women cost money. You pay to cut girls, and women health means a lot of money. It's not a white man. In fact, it was African women, the late Stella Obasanjo in 2003, 2004, who called for FGM to become a global agenda, and which is why we celebrate zero tolerance. So when I get people tell me, particularly my Sierra Leonean folks, always say, because you want to eat the UN money, that's why you're talking about FGM. FGM it's not African problem. You people like the UN money. No, I don't want the UN money. In fact, I pay the UN through my taxes in the West. So this is my money, and nobody's paying me to talk about human rights. If you value your life, I value my life. So which is why I'm talking. And slowly but surely, we have won that argument. And I don't get people. In fact, the same people that are saying, you want the UN money, is the same people that are waiting for the World Bank now. So I say, if you're waiting for every money in Africa is coming from somewhere. So Abba, if I eat the money for the World Bank and the UN, because I'm talking about the importance of women and girls' rights, that's a value right there. So encouraging young people and reach out to experts. Don't do it alone. Some people want to carry this load all by themselves. Don't do it. Ireti, we've never met, but we've always shared our knowledge and our expertise. And this is why I love about advocacy and the work that we do. It's a massive community. The anti-FGM movement is a huge, huge community. And we always want people to be self-care. If you're going through stress and thinking a lot about the work, take time out. Find something that makes you happy, makes you feel good. Don't be stressed, because it can be hearing a girl scream about their FGM, hearing a woman die through birth because they've had FGM, can leave you emotionally drained. I always say to people, find a day or two, switch off the Facebook, switch off the Twitter, switch off Instagram, and just take time out, read a book if you can, walk, go to the sea, go to the market, go watch comedy, You know, I watch lots of Nigerian comedy. You
Wow.
know, Basket Mouth makes me laugh all the time.
I'm happy to hear that.
Oh, I use many Basket Mouth slogan. Abba, sit there. I'll talk about FGM. You like it or not, that's your problem. For girls matter. You know, FGM for girls matter. So we use humor and we try and encourage people. But I have an open door policy for any young person that wants to. This is why I do training on advocacy, actually. I do train around advocacy. I do train around empowering yourself with the information that you need if you're going to talk about sexual gender-based violence and supporting victims of violence.
Well, that's good. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you for that. Okay, over to you, Toyin.
Okay, thank you, Ireti. Okay, so I'm going to be moving right on to Margaret, our second resource person. Margaret, I just want to say thank you for your time, your expose, and your advocacy. You have been a great resource and a source of inspiration for people that have encountered your advocacy group and services. And I just want to say, keep on fighting the fight. And I'm hopeful that someday soon we can win this battle. Just before we round off, I wanted to have you give your goodbye note on this platform for people watching.
Yes, I just want to appreciate Ireti. Ireti is my main G, that's how I call him. And we've been on this work for a very long time, and I know we are going to win it.
Yeah, by God's grace.
Yes, it's a fight that we must surely win. And all the young people out there, don't just keep quiet and think because you are young, you can't do anything. You can do so much. In the communities, we have a lot of ambassadors. Young people in secondary school, they are our ambassadors. We train them, they go to the communities, they organize programs, and as they go one community per time, we go right into the bush, to the forest where the communities are in the villages, and they are doing a lot of good work. Young people, please don't keep quiet. So many things are there to be done. But this FGM, all the people in the network, I'm advising, I'm encouraging us. Let us don't keep quiet. In your community, if they are still cutting girls, speak out. Call our numbers. You have our details. We are ready to go to any community where they are still cutting their girls. We want to put an end to girls being caught. Thank you so much for the privilege and opportunity to be here today.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Onah. We're very glad to have you. Right now, over to Mr. Ni Ojuolape for his final words on this topic.
Thank you very much. Because they've already exhausted everything that needs to be said about FGM. Really, I would just like to round up by talking about the fact that the dichotomy between a girl and a boy still exists a lot in our society. For girls, much more than boys, the failure, for example, to receive a high school diploma often places such individuals on a pathway to low-wage work, employment, unemployment, and what have you. But it is much more there for a girl because of their physiology, and also because of the system that we exist in. Life is more difficult for the girl than the boy. Now, right now in the Western world, we have the situation where we talk about Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, yes. But it's even different in the Western world than in the African world. So Black Lives Matter, if you look at what I've done is to do an hierarchy, so to say, of what are the deprivations that is being suffered. So you have on top of it, that is even in the Western world, you have the white man, you have the white woman, then you have the black man. Because we are still talking about Black Lives Matter, we still need to disaggregate between the black man and the black woman. The black woman suffers more than the black man. That is in the Western world. But when you now come to the black world, which is where we live, the black man is still at an enormous advantage over the black woman. Then after that, when you look at the black woman, I want you to disaggregate it a bit down. What about the black girl? The black girl is the one that is at the lowest. If she makes a mistake and gets pregnant, her life is almost ended right there. And I have personal examples even to give in the circumstances. So right now, my own mantra, my own personal mantra, which is leading us to do the work that we need to do, is to have a crusade which we're going to be christening Black Girls Matter. And I think that is one thing we need to face now to at least change the inequality in some way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nee, for your time and your thoughts that you shared. So we want to come to a close for today's session, but I'm very sure for everyone that has joined in today, you have been educated, you have been informed, you have been motivated. The fire has been kindled, and I want you to run with this passion. Don't let it end from this discussion. Take it a step further. Be the change you want to see. We can do it. It is achievable. You know, a lot has been said. Just some of the highlights for me is education, awareness. We can't say we don't know. We have to let the people at the grassroots know this thing. And Mr. Nee says something. Most times policy making and implementation goes in the top-bottom approach. Right now, we have to go to the grassroots so that it comes in an influx that is both ways, top down and bottom up. That way it can be well absorbed in the society, and we can see the change we desire. Also, Margaret Onah talked about letting people, the people in the grassroots, to know that they have something that is valuable, and we are only trying to come and see through a fusion of knowledge how things can be better done. Don't make them feel or think that they don't have sense or what they're doing is not right. Just let us see how we can meet them halfway, so that they can be receptive to the information we want to share with them. Yeah. Also, sex being a two-way thing. I'm a woman, you're a male. Don't look at any female as if, oh, they are just down there, is what you give to them. Let us begin to appreciate the women. Men are already waking up to this call. So women also be receptive, be open to the idea of living yourself for people to see and understand. Start with your immediate home. Let your husband, let your brother, let your father, let them know who you are. Let them know those things that are important to you, so that they don't make assumptions for you anymore. Or, okay, Alimatu talked about making laws for survivors. You know, things are no longer, I didn't know. Whether you're in, I've heard a lot of cases of people immigrating even to some countries on the basis of some of these wicked acts that are being practiced, and it is no longer ignorance as it used to be. Now we have to be responsible for those people that we bring to life, that we parent, or that we what's the word now, that we serve as guardians to. We have to make sure we protect people and speak for them. You didn't give birth to somebody doesn't mean you shouldn't look out for their interests. That is why we are Africans. They say in Africa, the Yoruba has a saying that so you are responsible for other people's life. This is beyond us. This is not just I mind my business, I do my thing. We have to work together to achieve the goal and the change that we desire to see. I'm so very blessed and grateful to have been a part of this conversation today. I hope that we go away with quote like Mary said, truth is truth wherever it goes. So speak for the truth, and with God on our side, this battle will become a testimony. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, we are really happy
to share this time with these wonderful people. Look forward to some other interesting conversations in the near future. Thank you, and I wish you a beautiful week ahead.
And to sincerely, I also want to say this, that Mr. Nee has given us a new slogan, which we want to partner with you and work on this, because this is a new ideology. Yeah, that's Black Girls Matter.
Especially
and we also with that, yes, well, with that, we can end FGM. So it's, well, to me, sincerely, we would like to see how we can work across Africa and see what we can do, even Sierra Leone, work in Kenya, Ghana, work in Zimbabwe, all the countries in Africa, even get to the UK, get to the various countries, and see how Black girls matter in issues of ending FGM. So we are really happy to have this. So let this conversation continue. Make sure you also follow us at Do It Right Out GN. Do It Right Out GN on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thank you very much, Olatunji. You've been a very, very wonderful support. We are so happy to really have your encouragement, because when it comes to support, when it comes to backup and everything, you've really done a lot. And one thing about our resource persons is that we believe so much that we're going to work with you. And for us, for Realize Girls Africa, as Realize Girls CAP, we have the Realize Girls CAP project, and we'll be glad to work with you, Mr. Nii, and also Alimotu and Margaret, as a mentee. You are going to be their mentor, and we'll be glad to see how we can achieve the Black Girls Matter ideology. So once again, we want to say a very big thank you to every one of us. It has been a long conversation. Thank you for your time. We are going to send a replay link, and make sure you register so that you'll be able to get all the other goodies that comes through it. So once again, we want to say thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. I think I got that. Thank you very much, and Eshegon, and bye-bye. So thank you, Toyin, and we'll see you again. Just keep watching our next edition of More Than Our SGBV Scars. Is going to come up very soon. We are going to look at other issues and possibly also bring up some of our resource persons after that. So once again, we want to appreciate you. We love you. Realize Africa wants to say this to all those who have passed through FGM. You are the most beautiful, most charming, and super women that we ever met, and we love you so much. And to all the other ladies who have gone through one scar or the other, we want to say that we love you. You are the best. Nobody has the right to reject you, because we love you and everybody loves you, and we know we are going to work together to achieve greater things. So thank you very much, and God bless you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.